Hello and welcome to ProtoBalls Talk Through Time and Space.
Yes.
This is retroactively the Star Trek and something else podcast that we will be exploring in the future at some point.
At some point. Primarily for Star Trek. Probably it's going to definitely be for other things, not necessarily Star Trek related. It could be other space and time travel related series, not just one or two.
Time Volcon?
Yes. No.
I know nothing about
No,
that.
it'll actually be Kamen Rider 5s. No, not 5s. D's?
Deno,
yes. Kamen Rider Deno, yes.
But today we'll be taking a look at the 2nd/8th episode of the original series of Star Trek.
The one with the train. No, sorry.
No, I'm pretty sure there's no train in Charlie X.
Yeah, no.
Maybe I blinked.
Yeah.
Could have happened.
It's a blink and you miss it. Somebody had a model train somewhere. No.
I mean, there were like 400 some crewmates, so...
That is true. and as established by Star Trek II, Kirk's hobby is collecting old stuff. And collecting antiques. So he could have a model train in his apartment somewhere.
I know at one point Geordi makes a model ship in Next Generation.
Oh, yeah. But nobody... Geordi? Yeah, Geordi's cool. Geordi's cool.
I didn't know where you were going with this one. I mean, except for that one little bit, but we'll talk about that when that becomes relevant.
Yes. So, yeah, Charlie X is the second episode broadcast, and it's honestly... We talked about Star Trek ad nauseum on the first episode, so we don't need to, go into all the characters and whatnot. But if we watch the first episode, if we really need to.
Whereas that previous episode was a good way of establishing all of the characters, except for Chekhov, who's not there, this one is kind of the opposite.
This one, if the Man Trap is like a good introductory episode, Charlie X it swings the opposite direction. I'm not a big fan of the episode. It's very corny and very camp.
It is definitely a Monster of the Week type story.
Where the monster is an adolescent teen with the powers of a god and the mindset of a person with antisocial personality disorder.
I mean, we're going to bring this up later, but earlier when we did watch this, we did think that this premise and concepts in this are handled better elsewhere. But we'll discuss that later.
You know what's crazy, actually? I was thinking about this earlier today, but this is the first Ship Under Siege episode in a season where there's at least 6 or 7 of them. And all of them are done much better than this.
No.
Especially the most famous, probably, episode of Star Trek, the one with Ricardo Montalban. Yes. We'll just put a pin on that for farther down the line. Yes. Or the one with the Nazis.
That one wasn't a Ship Under Siege.
That one was not a Ship Under Siege, but that one is probably also
infamous.
A very infamous episode. Patterns of Force, by the way, is what that episode is. And Space Seed is the one with Ricardo Montalban. Which
we'll get to those when we get to those. Yes. What about this episode specifically?
So we have a character named Charlie Evans, who is Robert Walker Jr. He shows up in a couple of films later on in the 60s. He's in Easy Rider, which is probably his most prominent film.
I know him from Beware the Blob, which goes to show you my film
yes.
repertoire.
Fair enough. He shows up in mostly TV shows and whatnot.
Side tangent, we'll get back to him, but I feel like the Blob is often used as shorthand for cheesy B movies, but has anybody ever actually watched the Blob movies? Those are solid.
They're very
good. Incredibly well done.
Oh shit, he's in an episode of Columbo.
Huh.
But yes,
Doesn't surprise me.
Yes, but no, the Blob is definitely a good series. What is it? 84? Is it? Yeah,
I think so.
The 84 Here's the thing. So the 84 remake takes the premise of the Blob and does turn it on its head, where because the Blob has a reputation of being camp, essentially, it flips it on its head and shows it's a very visceral film, the 84 one at least.
Yeah, like I said, all three of the movies are solid.
Mm-hmm. Like, the best thing to say of the 1984 film The Blob is that it shows what would happen to people if they were actually, like, dissolving from the outside.
And I definitely want to bring you on when we talk about that over on one of my other channels.
Gamay Zulong?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
We just have to figure out when we're going to do that. But
Right.
That's a unrelated topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, Charlie Evans, the titular Charlie X. Not sure why they called him that, because, he's got an actual last name.
Another aside, he also shows up in Murder, She Wrote in 2 episodes, and as George Owens. Don't know if you recognize that character or not.
The name sounds familiar, and I have seen literally every episode, but...
Yep. And then...
There are so many episodes, and you're asking me to pick out a character from 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
He's also in Dallas. He's also in the Heat of the Night. And also in Dragnet. So he's everywhere. So, solid character actor. Charlie Evans, though, he's 17, I think.
Yes. It is established in this episode that he is 17.
Like I said, he's an adolescent with the power of a god and the mindset of somebody with ASPD.
But the episode ends with him being transported over to the Enterprise from the Antares.
Starts, not ends.
Huh?
You said the episode ends.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Oh. Well, spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert!
This is a Pulp Fiction type. This is a Memento type.
Oh yes, of course.
Whichever one goes backwards, it does. No, I misspoke.
You know what? I would say it does remind me of Rashomon, but that's not how I remember it. Sorry.
Damn it.
Sorry.
No, I wanted to say that line.
So the episode begins with Charlie getting moved over from another ship.
The Antares.
The Antares, and like a couple of the crew are just happy to be rid of him.
Like they are extolling Charlie's praises. I'd be like, well, we're disappointed we're losing him, but here's how awesome this kid is.
Yeah. Let me tell you what this kid can do.
He's amazing.
And then after they leave, their ship blows up.
It's like, well, that's suspicious. And Charlie's like, huh.
Yeah, that's a thing that happened. Oh well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's... So Charlie Evans, essentially, throughout the plot, we do get a little bit more of his backstory. The crew of the Antares, they had found Charlie because the Antares is a science vessel. Whereas the Enterprise, I don't think is
an exploratory vessel.
Yeah, it's an exploration vessel, not a science vessel. But the Charlie, they found him, and he had allegedly spent 14 years in a deserted planet
that allegedly had a race of beings that managed to transcend physical forms, according to Spock.
Right, and Spock would know best.
It's logical.
It is logical. But it becomes more and more apparent that Charlie has also gained these powers, but he doesn't have the mental faculties to restrain himself.
Like, it starts with his infatuation with Yeoman Rand, which she does not reciprocate and makes it incredibly well known that she does not reciprocate. And he ignores that lack of reciprocation.
Yes.
Because he is a horny 17-year-old.
As 17-year-olds ought to be.
I mean, I'm not advocating that they behave like this.
What, you don't want them behaving like alphas and taking control? Treating women like... Sorry.
Yeah, don't try and be facetious. We got flagged on a previous video for that.
Of course. Yes.
Sarcasm's no longer allowed on this channel, apparently.
Darn. No, stop, don't.
I need to get that movie. I mean, I have it, just not in a form that I can watch.
Anybody who didn't get that reference, that is from...
No, don't explain it.
Don't explain it?
Those who know. Oh,
I guess, if you know, you know. Alright. We're just gonna leave it open-ended. But yeah, you know what this reminds me of, actually? Is... a show that was going on around the same time. I think it ended just a little bit before, but The Twilight Zone. You know what episode I'm talking about?
Oh, the one with Billy Mimi or Bill Mumi?
Yes.
I think that's his name.
It's a very similar premise. A kid who has the powers of a god but doesn't know how to control them and is very selfish in his desires to the point where he can literally unperson people.
Yep.
Which Charlie does do.
No. He sends them to the cornfield.
Oh, I see. The cornfield in quotations.
The record, that is the explanation given in the show.
Yes. But Charlie X maintains sort of the same powers.
But now he's in the form of a teenager rather than a little boy.
A horny teenager who does not know boundaries. That's actually the crux of this episode. He does not understand boundaries.
To be a bit fair, he lived 14 years of his life without any other humans to interact with? He has no idea how to interact with humans. And he wants to get to the space station that the Enterprise is headed to so he can meet more humans and interact with them.
Right. It's... So one thing we do gotta note is Walker's acting in this is... It's something.
Well, I certainly believe him as a petulant 17-year-old.
Petulant is that is a perfect descriptor for Charlie in this episode. He is very petulant, and he is petty, and he holds on to grudges. Like he initially respects Kirk early on in the episode, and like Yeoman Rand, you know, when she makes it very clear to Charlie that she does not share the same feelings as him, she isn't able to explain it, but she says, "Go to Captain Kirk. Kirk will explain it much better than I can."
And Kirk can't.
Kirk can't explain. Kirk can't sit down with this kid and be like, "There comes a time in everyone's life when a man loves a woman loves a man, or maybe not necessarily, or they're just attracted to one another. Love doesn't necessarily have to be involved."
It sounds like a very Kirk thing to say.
Yes. What? He's talking about sex.
But it's the equivalent of asking Picard for babysitting advice.
Yes. Picard hates children.
It's not that he hates children, he just doesn't get along with them.
So he hates children.
He has a very hard time with them.
Speaking of Picard, there has been a debate for decades. We're just gonna plop into this little debate about who the best Star Trek captain is, you know? everybody always goes, oh, well, Kirk or Picard, and the general consensus is Picard's the better captain, right?
I agree with that sentiment.
Now, allow me to throw a curveball here. My opinion is who is the best captain / commander? It is Cisco. Because
I have not seen much of that show, so
yes.
I cannot form an opinion on that.
Also, shout out to Janeway. Janeway's another very good captain, although she's kind of hamstrung by the situation she's in.
That's another show I need to watch.
And then there's Archer, who no one respects.
Well, Archer's an asshole, and at least you're talking about a different Archer than what I'm thinking of.
Not that Archer. Yes, Captain Archer from Enterprise, which is the prequel to the original series. Because the timeline for Star Trek is all sorts of fucked up right now.
Well, there is a lot of time travel in this
Yes.
series.
Yes.
About space exploration.
First Contact is technically the first that happens.
Oof.
Okay, Star Trek. What is it? Star Trek like 7? No, Star Trek 8 First Contact. Okay. Star Trek 8 First Contact. Because 9 is Insurrection, then 10 is Nemesis. First Contact has the first character discovering light travel and making contact with the Vulcans, which kicks off the whole series as a whole.
We're going on a tangent of a tangent.
Yes, we are. Okay. And then after that, I believe it is Enterprise, Brave New World's original series, and then after that is the first 6 movies, and then Next Generation, and in between the Next Generation and the Next Generation movies is Deep Space Nine and
Voyager.
And Voyager. Yes, not Enterprise. Enterprise is second in the timeline. And then after that is a couple of other ones. There's also Picard and the other one that I cannot think of the name of. And that's just in
Discovery?
Discovery, that might be it.
Oh, there's also that one. Oh, God.
Oh, Below Decks, too.
Not that one. No, it's one with Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, Michelle Yeoh. No.
I just remember seeing ads for it. I can't remember.
Oh, is that the newest series?
I think so. Yeah.
I can't think of the name. After a while, it becomes very confusing.
Yeah.
And this is, mind you, this is coming from somebody who can name every James Bond film in less than 2 minutes.
Also, this should be a good indicator of just how interested in this episode we are.
Yes. Well, really, all it's just Charlie getting into a dumb situation and then being the fucking petulant kid that he is, he causes more problems because he can't control his powers.
And nobody can be nice to him. That wasn't nice.
That wasn't nice. Even though, everybody has been nice to him. He doesn't understand the concept of humor. You know what I mean? Like
the first time we really see him establish his powers, it's after Kirk tosses him, and one of the guys in the gym just kind of chuckles at the situation. Because this is the same guy who Kirk had also previously tossed.
Yeah, because he's training Charlie in martial arts, or like a form of not sumo, but like judo.
Right. And Charlie just assumes that the guy laughing at him means that he's laughing at him.
Yes. And he doesn't understand lightheartedness. He takes everything to heart, which some people still do.
But then Charlie uses his powers to unperson this person.
Yes. They disappear. They do come back. I believe they do come back at the end of the episode.
As far as we can tell, yes.
Yes.
I don't think he's ever appears again, but we'll get to that
Yeah,
later.
I believe the powers that be sort of return everything to the status quo before Charlie arrived. But, yeah, so he gets disappeared, and in this context, we'll be using unpersoned, because I really like that term, because it reminds me of just Joseph Stalin just unpersoning people and wiping them from, like, historic photographs and whatnot. And it's like, this person never existed now.
Well, then whose feet are those?
Are you asking questions?
No.
You have been unpersoned. All is good.
But the face that Charlie makes when he uses his powers.
Keep clapping or he'll execute us.
For the YouTube audience, I'm posting a picture of what Charlie looks like when he does this. I swear, he makes the same face throughout the entire episode, and it's ridiculous.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
I remember there's an episode of Kamen Rider, it's either Kamen Rider Black or Blacker X, where this little girl gets psychic powers, and when she uses them in one scene, she makes the same damn face. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's yeah, Charlie in this episode is just
I feel like this episode established how psychics are supposed to look when they use their powers, and that's silly.
very silly. But again, Star Trek is very campy, especially the original series. Not to say the next generation isn't.
It has its moments.
It has its moments, especially with not Riker, Crusher. Yeah. Wesley. Yep. Sorry, it took me a second. There's a lot of characters in Next Gen.
I had to figure out which Crusher you were talking about.
There's a lot of characters who like share very similar names in the Star Trek series.
And it doesn't help that in Next Generation there are two of them that have the same last name because they're related.
And I think, but doesn't Crusher like disappear after a while, or is that Beverly?
Which Crusher?
Wesley or Beverly?
Beverly disappears for the second season, and then during the fourth season, Wesley leaves.
Okay.
I don't know if he comes back yet, though, because I haven't watched seasons 5 through 7 yet. So I don't know. And now you're looking it up.
No, it doesn't really matter.
Once it becomes more firmly established that Charlie has these bizarre psychic powers and he's using them to...
They try to confine him to his quarters, and he's just like, no, I'm just gonna disappear the wall.
Yeah!
and it's funny because, I forget who's all there. I think it's
just Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, they're Kirk and Spock, and they like look around, and then they just have like they share a look between one another, and they're like, oh, this is gonna be harder than I
thought. He's still looking it up.
No, I'm not looking it up. I'm doing something else entirely.
But it eventually becomes a point where it's affecting other crew members, and Charlie is so dead set on getting to the space station that he locks in the coordinates and prevents the Enterprise itself from deviating from its course.
He essentially takes control of the ship.
At one point, he's walking down a hallway. He sees a woman and turns her old. I know he turns another girl that Rand had tried to introduce into an iguana at one point.
And he was rude to her.
He was rude to her. Like Rand was trying to introduce her to a young officer around his age, and he's like, "No, I want you." Which is.
Charlie's not a good guy.
No. But at one point, he's walking down the hall, and he sees a bunch of people just laughing and joking with each other, and then he turns them into Noparabo.
Yeah, Noparabo. That's a Japanese urban legend.
A faceless person.
Yes. No faces, which is, according to Japanese folklore, they're not hostile spirits, but they're more trickster spirits, and they just like to fuck with people. It's I'm trying to think of like a Western equivalent, but I can't really think of any. It would be like it's kind of like Odin or Loki, just sort of fucking around with humans. You know?
I mean, it's a bit hard to find Western equivalents to yokai because there are so many of them with such varying powers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very Japanese-centric.
And most of them are based off the Shinto religion, which is a very niche religion, which is primarily in Japan. It's in other Asian countries too, but primarily in Japan. And to put into perspective, Japan is old. Like, as a country, old. It is... I want to say it was first, like, properly established, like, when the Western Roman Empire was still a thing. That's how old Japan is. So, they have, like, millennia of stories to go off.
I'm only vaguely familiar with the past couple hundred years.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was gonna say, like, a lot of those old stories, they're probably lost to time or have been just sort of so ingrained in culture that...
I mean, I know the Dogu statues that they occasionally dig up, they have no idea what those were for.
Yeah.
It's like... Yeah, this is a part of our culture, but
we don't know. Fuck
if we know what they were for.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the old Minoan civilization out in Greece, where this is another side tangent that we're on.
A side tangent on a side tangent on a side tangent.
Yes. This English archaeologist, he had purchased a private island out in the middle of the Aegean Sea. And he started, like, digging up all of these old artifacts. And they discovered, like, there was an island civilization on this island of Minoa, which is where the Minotaur comes from in ancient Greek culture and mythology. And they discovered that there is a language that is older than ancient Greek, that nobody knows even what it is. Like, we know what Old Egyptian is because it was translated from Old Egyptian into Coptic into Greek. So we've been able to translate Old Egyptian. This one is, I believe it's called Script A, because Script B is an even more ancient version of ancient Greek. And Script A is even more ancient than Script B, and we don't know what it is. We cannot translate it. So sometimes we just find things that are so old that it's like, this is our culture. We don't know what this is. It's like, I don't know what we're looking at.
Eventually we'll find an elder god or something.
Oh yeah, just our luck. We'll find the ancient city of R'lyeh. Cthulhu Fhtagn.
I mean, honestly, it might be preferable to what we're actually going through.
Cut social commentary.
Anyway, back to Charlie X.
So the one thing that eventually does undo Charlie X is the people that raised him come back looking for him.
It first starts, his downfall first starts once Kirk realizes that he can't control everything on the ship. He only has a certain extent of his control.
Right, he can only... What is it? He can only control, like, one thing at a time.
So he has his crew turn everything on, and that ends up overwhelming Charlie. And then finally, they start getting a message that Charlie had been blocking, basically telling them, hey, we're the guys who raised Charlie. We've come to pick him up. He kind of slipped away while we had our backs turned for a couple days. Sorry. I swear, we turned away for like 2 weeks, and he was just gone.
Listen, we can't shake a stick without him trying to run away.
We can't even shake a stick. We have no physical forms.
We are the true elder gods, and we've come to take back our lost son.
Because I know he's a human, but he can't live among humans because he's gonna just keep using this power.
He's gonna take over the world, the universe.
If you let him.
If you let him.
Or even if you don't let him.
It begs the question, if Charlie got shot, could he repair himself? Like,
they didn't have bullets at this time. They had moved past bullets.
Yeah, they had moved past bullets, but it's a thought exercise. Like, suppose Charlie gets hit with like a lethal dose of radiation. Can he cure cancer? Can he stop himself from bleeding? If he is, like, let's assume he's shot in the heart or in the head, can he repair himself? It is open-ended questions that will never be answered. But
because this episode doesn't even bother to explore them because it doesn't need to.
It doesn't care.
It's not super relevant to the story that's being told.
Yes. And so, yeah, Charlie realizes, well, the jig is up. I need to beg for my life. Please, they're not like me. I'm like you. Please.
And Kirk attempts to plead a case for clemency, but the big guy is like, yeah, really, though?
Yeah.
I mean, can you be 100% sure he won't use his powers again? Because we literally gave him these powers so he'd live. He's always going to have them and always be able to use them and always be using them.
We don't have any way of getting rid of them.
Basically. So, yeah, we're just gonna
yoink him.
I mean, to be fair, he kind of was our responsibility in the first place, and we're just trying to be good parents, even though we don't understand what the concept is.
We're fixing the problem that we initiated.
Like I said, kids these days, you can't turn your back for a day without them sneaking off. Which kind of goes to show you, like, they've got such omniscient powers, but they lose track of Charlie for a little bit. He just...
Yeah. These rascally kids, I tell you what. Yeah. So that's Charlie X, and I don't know if there's like a post scene after that where
not really.
Yeah, because we're not given like an aftermath scene where Kirk and Spock.
Well, also the Elder Gods are like, oh, by the way, here are all your people back.
Yep.
Sorry about the Antares. Can't do shit about that. But.
Sorry, we can't turn back time, but we can re-person people. Yeah. Oops. Oopsie doodles. Yeah, it's yeah.
Also, when Charlie does eventually explain what happened to the Antares, he's like, well, there was a piece that was bent, so I got rid of it. They were going to blow up anyway, eventually. I just let it happen quicker.
Which is such a dick move.
And in hindsight, you can definitely tell that the people in the Antares were trying to get rid of him without letting him know that they were trying to get rid of him.
Yeah. And that's Charlie X. We don't get a scene where it's like Kirk and Bones and... Does Bones even do much in this episode?
I mean, he talks a bit, but otherwise, not really.
Yeah.
I think at one point he tries to convince Kirk and like, hey, he looks at you like a father figure, and he respects you, so you have some measure of control in this current situation.
Yes, that's true. But we don't get a post scene where it's Kirk, Spock, and Bones discussing the situation.
No, it's just kind of like, well, that happened.
Well, that happened. Onwards to more star systems.
Onwards, I guess, to the place we were going to head in the first place, and then Charlie was like, yeah, we want to go there, and we tried
none of this makes sense. Like, it's like, Charlie, you're going to get there eventually.
No, at some point they do try and veer away so that they don't reach the space station, because they know that if Charlie gets to the space station, he can probably cause even more havoc than he's already causing.
True.
But I guess it ends as like, well, I guess we're going to head to that space station that we're going to head to before Charlie decided he wanted to go there, so we had to stop him. I guess we'll have to explain just what happened. I'm having a hard time figuring out what just happened myself. If only there was some podcast to explain it.
No kidding. If only we had a podcast.
But yeah, that was Charlie X. A teenager with psychic powers goes on the rampage. Kind of. As briefly mentioned before, we do feel that some elements of this have been done better elsewhere. And you brought up a very good point when we were watching it the first time around for this podcast. Because we were supposed to do this months ago.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like a month ago. This was supposed to be in like February.
No, this was supposed to be in January.
In January, yeah. That's how long it was.
You know, what happened was we were watching it, then I get a text from a coworker saying we're on overtime. It's like, shit.
Yeah.
And it's just been on overtime for a while.
Yeah, and I've also been doing on and off streaming for charity. So
go check out his streams.
Yep. Donating for Doctors Without Borders. We're trying to get to $2,000.
I put a link to it in here, but I don't know how.
That's alright. That's alright.
Also, I don't know how many people would even watch this or donate, or even get to this point where they could donate and wanted to, and we're still interested in this episode.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, as we were saying, you mentioned that who did this remind you of?
God, oh, I forget. It's
Q.
Oh yeah, it's Q. Yeah, it's a beta cuck version of Q. To use the manosphere terminology.
Yeah, no. Q just is like, hypothetically, Q is Charlie X if he were a more advanced adult.
No, and you know what it is? It's like Q is not any less petty. But Q has much more control over what he's just there to annoy people.
Right.
He's not there to, outside of the first episode of Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint, he's not there to kill anyone. He's just there to be a fucking nuisance to Picard. And specifically...
He's like Mr. McFlexix for Superman. Or Batmite.
God, Jesus.
It's like he's really just there for the lulz, and he's the only one laughing.
This is true. It's to the point where, like, Q shows up once, and only once in Deep Space Nine, and Cisco has none of his shit. Like, Cisco is way different from Kirk or Picard, in that when faced with Q, who Cisco has already had dispatches about, like, the entire Federation knows about Q by this point. Because this is, like, season 6 of Next Generation. And Q has shown up more than enough times for Picard to send dispatches out to all of the Federation about this guy.
Right.
Where, when faced with Q, what does Cisco do? He just punches him. And Q never comes back after that episode. Because Cisco is a badass, okay?
But I was thinking of it, and the whole idea of a teenager with phenomenal psychic powers was done better in Akira.
Oh, yes, Akira, yep. Yep, that is a good reference, too. Yeah, Charlie X. It reminds me of Twilight Zone, Akira, Q, and Q. All of them done better. Although I do understand why people don't like Q. Let's get that out of the way.
Fair enough.
There's a large number of the fan base in Star Trek that does not like Q. Totally understandable, because Q kind of...
Like, in Next Generation, when I know an episode's going to have Q and one other character, I know I'm probably going to have fun. The other character being Lwaxana Troy.
Yep.
In fact, the season 4 episode she shows up and Deanna is giving her log, and it's like, and my mother's coming. It's like, oh, okay, we're in for a fun episode. And then it turns out to be a serious episode. It's like, well, shit, curveball.
Yeah. And, yeah. So, yeah, that was Charlie X. We kind of went on a couple of side tangents, but they were all at least related to the episode in one form or another.
It's like a wiki trap.
Yeah.
Click on a link, you go to another link, and click on another link, and click on another link. It all stems back from the same source. It's just very roundabout.
Yeah.
So, I think it's about time to wrap this up. Don't you agree?
I suppose so.
This has been ProtoBalls Talk Through Time and Space. Or is it Space and Time?
Through either or works. Through space and time and space, everywhere and everything in between.
Should probably check that movie out.
Yes,
everything all. What is it?
Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I
hear good things.
I was really happy when the actor for it. I don't know if you saw the clip or not. This is a post show side tangent, but I forget who the actor's name is, but he was Short Round in Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, and he won the award for Best Supporting Actor at that year's Oscars, and the award was presented by not by Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford presented Best Picture, but it's because that was like the first film he had done in like 15 years, because he had quit acting for like a long time, and to come back to acting and immediately win a Best Supporting Actor, and then Best Lead Actor was actually won by Brendan Fraser, who has had a long career with lots of struggles. And that was a very feel-good
award show.
That was a very feel-good awards show. Because Short Round won Best Supporting Actor, Brendan Fraser won Best Lead Actor. What's her name?
I don't even remember. I don't even watch the Oscars, so I couldn't even.
Jamie Lee Curtis won Best Supporting Actress,
Okay, yep, there.
And then Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture. And then the actor for Short Round, because the award was presented by Harrison Ford, and the both of them had like reconnected on stage, and it was a very, very nice sight. Very, very good time. I think that was like 3 years ago. It's been a while now. That's crazy. So yeah, Charlie X. Not as good as all the other stuff we talked about. So with that, it is ProtoBalls Talk Through Time and Space, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Goodbye.